Yeah.
Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, bringing you some of the best college football news, predictions, and analysis. The first post-playoff bowl game is one that you might be okay missing out on. Western Kentucky will be taking on Western Michigan in the First Responder Bowl, a battle between a solid Conference USA team and a solid team out of the MAC, one that nearly made the MAC championship game. We'll start with Western Kentucky here, and what a job well done. We have to give credit to Tyson Helton. Yes, the brother of Clay Helton over at USC. But the job that he did really turning around this Hilltoppers program in a very quick amount of time. Western Kentucky was 3-9 in 2018. And things didn't look to be getting any better right off the bat under Helton, as Western Kentucky opened the season with a loss to Central Arkansas out of the FCS. But after that season opening loss, Western Kentucky kind of found their identity on offense and only lost 3 games the remainder of the year to finish 8-4 coming into this First Responder Bowl. Western Michigan, we mentioned, almost made the MAC title, would have done so had they defeated Northern Illinois in the season finale. But like I gave credit to Tyson Helton, I want to give credit to Tim Lester. You know, he's the guy that took over after PJ Fleck when he went to Minnesota. And he's is about to finish up his 3rd year and has won 6 games or more every year since he took over for the Broncos. That equates to 2 bowl games for this Western Michigan squad. Sure, they're not that team that they were under PJ Fleck, where they went undefeated and almost beat Wisconsin in the Cotton Bowl. But to make bowl games and win consistently, that's all Bronco fans can hope for. And Lester was doing a great job of that. So when I look at the stats here, when I was comparing these two teams, looking at the research, trying to decide who I'm going to pick in this First Responder Bowl, the first thing that really stood out to me was that Western Michigan is way more balanced than Western Kentucky. And I do believe that the Broncos own an offensive edge over the Hilltoppers. The Broncos averaging 244.6 passing yards per game, while also adding 212.7 rushing yards per game. They're racking up 34.2 points per game. So that balanced offense is not just there. They're balanced and they're putting points up on the board, which many will say is to be expected. It's the MAC, but to me that is impressive. And the reason for their success, you got 2 players, but none bigger than Levante Bellamy, the senior running back for Western Michigan. Put up over 1,400 yards on the year and leads the nation. Yes, Levante Bellamy from Western Michigan leads the nation with 23 rushing touchdowns this season. So he is the strength for this Western Michigan offense and a huge reason why they are 7-5 coming into this bowl game and playing so well. But they also have John Wasink as well at quarterback, throwing for over 2,900 yards, 19 touchdowns, just 7 interceptions. Been one of the more accurate and one of the better quarterbacks in the MAC this season. So that kind of gives Western Michigan a 1-2 punch in this First Responder Bowl. Keep in mind, this is a team that beat the 2 MAC championship contenders, Miami, Ohio, and Central Michigan. The 2 teams that fought it out for the title beat them by a combined 38 points. So Western Michigan, I think if they had gotten to the MAC championship game, probably would have won it, because they beat those 2 teams that played for it by 38 combined points. That doesn't just happen. You're a pretty solid football team if that's the case. When you look at Western Kentucky, they certainly got the most out of their transfer quarterback in Ty Storey, the quarterback coming over from Arkansas. He's thrown for over 2,200 yards, 12 touchdowns, just 5 interceptions. He's also added 7 rushing touchdowns. The Hilltoppers are 7-2 with him as a starter. He was not the starter in that loss to Central Arkansas at the beginning of the season. He was not the starter early on in the season. When he got his chance, he made the most of it. Made the most of his final year as a college football player, 7-2, including a win over his former team, 45-19 over the Razorbacks in Fayetteville, which ultimately led to the firing of Chad Morris. So when you switch gears a little bit and you go over to the defensive side of the ball, we mentioned Western Michigan certainly owning the offensive edge. Western Kentucky owns the defensive edge. And Look, guys, as an analyst like me, when you got to predict games like this, I hate that because it would just be so easy for me to be, oh, they got the edge on offense, they got the edge on defense, they got the edge here, there. It's a no-brainer they're going to win. But when you've got two teams that you've got a pretty solid defense going up against a very solid offense, and that team that has a solid defense is not bad offensively either, it's a tough game to pick across the board. It's a tough game to pick. None of these bowl games have really been too lopsided in my opinion. So when you look at Western Kentucky, they own that edge. They allow just 20.1 points per game, while Western Michigan's allowing 26.2 points per game. Not a bad mark from either team, but Western Kentucky nearly a touchdown better. My concern for both of these teams, but more so for Western Michigan, is can they run with Levante Bellamy against a Western Kentucky defense that's allowing just 137.3 rushing yards per game. So most people would look at that and say that's well over $125. Why is that good? Well, I think that's not a very large margin compared to some of the other rushing defenses we've seen. Over 200 rushing yards per game, 190, or maybe Western Michigan's running defense, which allows 186.5 rushing yards per game. So those two numbers there for these two teams' rushing defenses, not only does Western Kentucky own the edge across the board defensively, but they own it in the area that Western Michigan thrives offensively. For the Broncos, almost allowing 190 rushing yards per game is not acceptable, especially going up against a dual-threat quarterback in Ty Storey. Not Jalen Hurts caliber, but he can do it. And then you've got a running back in junior Gage Walker, who's rushed for over 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns. His ability to run could set up a huge day for him, or could at least set up a huge day for Ty Storey, because if he can get some decent plays going, that's going to really set up the pass. Expect Western Kentucky and Tyson Helton to draw up some very solid play-action passes that could exploit this Western Michigan defense. So that's the number for me that I'm concerned about. 186.5 rushing yards per game. The Broncos have to step up. They've got to step up and shut down the run and force Ty Storey, who's played well, but force him to win this game solely through the air. In a game like this, the First Responder Bowl, we mentioned it's tough to pick. Two smaller schools, two teams that, all things considered, relatively even. But we're picking an upset here. We're taking Tim Lester and the Broncos. We're taking Western Michigan to pull off the upset over the Hilltoppers, if you want to call it that. I like this Broncos squad. They've got experience across the board. In their coaching staff, they've got experience from making multiple bowl games under Tim Lester. You've got a quarterback that's experienced. You've got a senior running back in Bellamy that wants to go out big, leads the nation in touchdowns, has experience across the board. They certainly own the offensive edge. They're consistent offensively, more so than Western Kentucky. And when I look at it, if this game turns into a shootout, it could be very well high scoring. I believe that Western Michigan can get a stop. Their defense, poor against the run, sure, but they're going to be able to get some stops. They've done it all year long in the MAC. They're 7-5, nearly played for the conference title for a reason. And I think that if it becomes a high-scoring back-and-forth game, it's the Broncos defense, not the Hilltoppers, that can get a stop. And I'm crediting a lot of that more so due to their offense. So I'm liking the Broncos in this one. The MAC picks up yet another win in bowl play. Another win in postseason play. Western Michigan finishing 8-5. Western Kentucky also finishing 8-5. Future looking very bright for both programs under relatively new head coaches. So the First Responder Bowl, look, football's football. It's going to be on that Monday after the playoffs. So if you're up for it, around 11:30 Central Time, don't miss it. You might be in for a fun one between these two smaller squads. But if not, get ready. We've got some more upper-level bowl games coming your way as New Year's Eve and New Year's Day quickly approach. So guys, thank you so much for watching us here on YouTube. Make sure to like this video and check out everything we have for you in the description below. The spread pick for the First Responder Bowl, as well as every other college football bowl game pick, is on thegridironexpert.com, so do not miss out on that. Don't miss out on the exclusive content offers we have for you in the description. And as always, thank you for watching. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on The Gridiron Expert.